What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again with another episode of the Transfer Show. Today we're pretty much just going to be speaking about what business Man City could be doing in the remainder of this window. So before I do crack on with today's stream, make sure, like always, if you are enjoying the content, then please do subscribe to my channel. It is free to subscribe. We're now less than 500 subs away from 47k, so any help towards that would be great. We're going to have a big push now towards the end of this transfer window, and we'll see if we can hit that by transfer deadline day. We'll go ambitious. Let's see what happens. So if you are new around here, do subscribe. Also, don't forget, social media links are in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Do leave a thumbs up on today's stream. 200 likes is the aim. And do leave your thoughts in the comments below if you are watching this after the stream, and do get your thoughts in the live chat. A big welcome to Akanji. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I can't see Donnarumma signing at 5:30 today, if I'm being honest with you. We may get some developments over the next 24 hours on Gigi Donnarumma. Of course, we were reporting yesterday about personal terms now being agreed. I imagine the focus for City over the next 24 or 48 hours is to sort out what's going on with Ederson. I believe Galatasaray are back in touch today with Man City to negotiate that transfer. So I imagine there'll be a bit of urgency in trying to find that agreement, and hopefully an agreement can be found in the next 24 or 48 hours if Ederson is wanting to leave, and then City can tie up the signing of Donnarumma not too much longer after them agreements can be found. So we'll see. Siraj, thanks for tuning in. We'll see if Rodrygo and Donnarumma do end up signing for City. Welcome to Eda Can as well, much appreciated. Connor, spot on. Rodrygo started. That were interesting, and his reaction to being substituted was also very interesting. I'll speak more about that in my transfer updates today. But yeah, real interesting. I'm not too sure what was going on with Real Madrid's team. I know Vinicius Jr. didn't end up starting that game, and it looked like they'd rotated, but I don't really get why Real Madrid would be rotating so early into the season, but we'll see. Nadir expecting some bombers today. We'll see if we do end up getting them exclusives coming in. I imagine it will be a big day today for Manchester City. I know it's Bank Holiday Monday here in England, and it's not a normal working day, but I imagine it'll be very much business as usual for Manchester City and all the other clubs working on deals, because time's running out. We've got 1 week left of the transfer window, so we will see what does happen. Hunter, welcome. I'm not too sure why you'd be looking for a Diaz disaster class, if I'm being honest with you, my friend. Obviously, we're speaking about transfers today rather than a football match. Ruben Diaz obviously just signed a new contract with Manchester City, and we could do with him finding his prime form very soon for City as well, because I do have a feeling with Ederson leaving, our distribution at the back needs to be absolutely on point, and that includes all of our defenders being in tip-top shape in terms of their prime alertness and also their distribution. And I definitely think there's some room for improvement that Ruben Diaz could do, because at the moment he doesn't look anywhere near as good as what we've seen him do for Manchester City. So hopefully we'll see the best out of Ruben Diaz in the not too distant future. AK, thanks for tuning in. Good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated, my friend. Sajal, thank you for tuning in as well. He says, what a signing for Tottenham. Hincapi from Bayer Leverkusen. I've not been keeping track today of any of the transfers other than those involving Manchester City. So I know Spurs had been in for Hincapi. I didn't know they'd found the agreements, but there we go. We'll see if Tottenham Hotspur do end up making that signing. I mean, Sports Mole have been reporting that Tottenham have been given the green light. They're bringing him in for £52 million. So, yeah, there we go. Venus, thanks for tuning in as well. Much appreciated. Hunter, it's not going to solve Man City's passing errors, but that's why I said the defence needs to tighten up with their distribution. You know, I know everything runs through Ederson in terms of our distribution at the back, but you can't just rely on your goalkeeper to do all of your distribution for you. You have to have a period of control in the game, and to be able to control the game means the whole team's got to be able to knock the ball around and find the accurate passes and be pretty solid under pressure. So that's normally where I'd be looking for the midfield control, the players to drop deeper into the pockets to pick the ball up. Obviously, when we get Rodri back to full fitness would be a big advantage, because he'll help with that. Obviously, all City will be looking to do is give the ball to Rodri, and Rodri Rodri will sort you out from there, but you can't just keep asking Rodri to do everything. You need players in the meantime to step up. Nico Gonzalez needs to step up, in my opinion. I thought he's had a couple of good games for City. I don't think he were at fault for the goal that City had conceded against Spurs. I thought that was James Trafford's pass that just wasn't there to be made, but there's just room for improvement everywhere. We're only 2 games in, so I want these lessons to be learnt early rather than for it to be a disaster towards the end of the season. It's just obviously a bit of a blow that it's a home game that we lost against Spurs, but here we are. Who Dares, thanks for tuning in, says Real Madrid fans must think that their stars love warming the bench for washed wingers like Vinicius Jr. Real Madrid have got, I don't really get their transfer strategy because they've just gone for pretty much Galacticos 2.0, Jude Bellingham, Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Rodrygo, etc., etc. And you got to try and gel all these players in and try and make things work. And I feel like over the last season or so, PSG have demonstrated exactly why you don't want to be targeting the biggest and best names. What you want is 11 core players who gel together really nicely, work hard as a team, who have all got that bit of individual quality that can make the difference in the tightest of games. And PSG have got players who can make that difference, but they've also got them quality players who aren't scared of doing the grinding for them as well, the likes of João Neves, Vitinha, etc., about how much quality that they've got. And even PSG have their weaknesses, so it's sometimes when it gets to the very top end of football, a lot of the teams, your Real Madrid, your PSGs, Man City are up there. Liverpool had accused of it as well. These teams aren't fantastic defensive teams. You put these teams under pressure, you can score goals against these teams. It's just what these teams possess is the ability to score one more than you. Barcelona are very good at it as well, and I think it's what Man City need to get back into their game as well. Their ability to consistently be scoring 3-4 goals every single game. You will win more games than you lose if you're going to be scoring 3 or 4 goals every single game. I don't mind our defence being exposed if we're attacking, creating opportunities and putting our opportunities in the back of the net. And that ultimately for me is what our fatal error was against Spurs. Couple of good opportunities to score in the first half. We didn't. We then presented a good opportunity to Spurs, who did punish us and put the ball into the back of the net. And that's what football is, because City will give you them opportunities. Them teams have got to be clinical to beat us. Man City equally are going to get their opportunities, and we've got to be clinical to beat the other teams. Clinical against Wolves, that's why we won 4-0. The scoreline flattered us because Wolves didn't play a bad game. Said it last week when we beat them. We didn't play a bad game. We played a good game. Then Wolves didn't play a bad game. They played a good game as well. But the scoreline looks like Wolves played really bad and Man City played really well. The statistics show that Wolves didn't play very well and Man City played very well. But that wasn't what I saw with my own eyes. I saw Wolves have opportunities to take the lead, and it'd have been a different talking point, because if Wolves had took the lead, I think City would have gone into their shell. They'd have struggled to respond like we did against Spurs. And to me, it's all about when things aren't going your way, how are you going to respond to games? And the response from City from going behind against Spurs wasn't very good. Spurs ended up grabbing a second in added time, and in the second half I wanted City to come all guns blazing. First 15 minutes, reduce the deficit, get a goal and put Tottenham under pressure, get them to sit deeper, inviting pressure onto themselves, and we didn't do it. And in the end, Tottenham probably could have scored 3 or 4 if they wanted to. They weren't clinical in the second half, and City were just nowhere to be seen. We struggled for any kind of control until we got Foden and Rodri back onto the pitch. So just a bit of a mess of a game, that game, to be honest. And I think I'm happy just to move it to the back, if I'm being honest with you, the back of our heads. I don't want to think about the game now. We've got, we can only focus on what we can do in the future. We can focus on Brighton, turn our attention to that, and see if we can find ways to pick up a difficult win on the road, a ground that we lost at last season. So if we can pick up a win against Brighton, that puts us in good stead heading into a 2-week international break. And when we come back, games come thick and fast. Not easy. With Manchester Derby, our first Champions League game. You got Arsenal away as well. So, real difficult games. And just reminded me, actually, we've got the Champions League draw on Thursday. So I think we'll do a little watch along of the Champions League draw as well. I think it's at 5 p.m. BST. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what time it's at. So we'll see. Savinho, Tottenham have got cash to spend because they've missed out on top targets. They've missed out onto Arsenal. So they've got cash to spend. It's just about Man City's happy to accept the price. I keep hearing 60, 70 million pounds. Spurs could get to 70 million pounds, but if City can't find an alternative, they're not going to sell Savinho. And Man City don't want to sell Savinho. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. They don't want to sell Savinho. But I do think Savinho's keen on leaving City, and I think it's just making City think twice about a player who isn't fully committed to the club. Like Ederson, he's umming and ahhing. He doesn't want to sign a new contract. He's going to leave next summer. And he's umming and ahhing about leaving this summer. So if they're not 100% committed to Man City, then I would find acceptable good deals that suit Man City as the selling team and let these players leave and replace them with players who do want to join Man City, who do want to be here, who have a lot to offer the squad. So that's the stance that we could do with some clarification on, and it's nothing that a simple meeting with Savinho wouldn't sort. Hugo Viana, Pep Guardiola in the boardroom, call Savinho in, sit down with him for an hour or two and say, look, this is the situation that we're dealing with. We know Tottenham Hotspur are interested. We know they're prepared to pay a good amount of money and we can negotiate this transfer if you want this transfer. But we would really like you to stay because we rate you. We think you're a quality player who deserves more opportunities to showcase what you can do because you're a young talent who Pep Guardiola really enjoys working with. So the decision now is up to you, and we need, because time's running out, if you're going to leave, we need an alternative to be brought in. So we need an answer, yes or no. Do you want to stay at Man City or do you want to join Tottenham Hotspur? That's the decision that Savinho has to weigh up. These offers have been in and around for the last week or two. So he's had a week or two to make these decisions. Manuel Akanji's in the exact same boat. He's had nearly a week now. He's been well aware of the Galatasaray offers that have come in, and Man City are prepared to accept the £15 million bid. So we're at decision time now, because if not, and we let things go for another 3, 4, 5 days, there's just not going to be enough time for us to bring in suitable replacements for these players. Now, Akanji's is a bit different because I don't think we're going to sign an alternative to him, because we do still need to move on a non-homegrown player. We need to move on Stefan Ortega. We need to move on Calvin Phillips as well. So there's a lot of business to do. A lot of business to be done. Thank you very much to Mr. Thanks for tuning in all the way from Tanzania. I've not heard too much about the Aït-Nouri injury. What Who Dares has said is the rumours that I've heard, but the unofficial rumours that he's going to be out for 3 weeks, which means he's just going to miss the one game against Brighton away and he's going to be back after the international break, which might be true, might not be true. Pep Guardiola's done a press conference after the match against Tottenham Hotspur just last night and he's confirmed he's not spoke to the doctor, so we don't have factual information on this yet. That's the rumour that I've heard, what Who Dares has said, but it is at this moment in time just a rumour, so I don't know what else is going to happen. Sadiat, thanks for tuning in, says, I think Rodrygo would be a perfect signing on the left-hand side, and Donnarumma, I like it because he's the best goalkeeper in the world, although Trafford won't be happy. Well, Trafford, he was always going to be the understudy to Ederson, so Man City bringing in a new first-choice goalkeeper, to me, shouldn't be too much of a problem for James Trafford. James Trafford's not shy of a challenge, and I'm hoping it's going to bring out the very best in James Trafford. From what we saw against Spurs, he's got lots more developing and learning to do, and I don't want to see fans getting on his back when he makes mistakes. He's going to make mistakes. He will learn from them as well. And James Trafford's still a good 2-3 seasons away from really, goalkeepers getting into their prime. You don't really see goalkeepers get into their prime until probably the late 20s. Even Gigi Donnarumma, I'd say, is right in the early parts of his prime because he's 26, but he's so vastly experienced. I mean, Man City could stick with James Trafford, and I'd sit here and I'd say, it will come good because he's a high-quality keeper. It is going to take 2 or 3 seasons of learning. Man City have decided not to let James Trafford go to Newcastle and watch him learn and develop there, because in 2 or 3 seasons' time, he'd be a high-quality goalkeeper who Man City may want to bring in. We wouldn't have the buyback clause available, and Newcastle would probably be asking for a world record fee for a goalkeeper. So we've got a potential goalkeeper who could well be world class. We just need to find the right way of developing him and finding the right games for him and making sure he's getting them regular minutes and opportunities is really important. Squad management is really important, and I pinpointed that it was something Man City didn't do very well last season. It's why we picked up so much injuries, because of our squad management, overusing players, rushing players back from injury. Having a bigger squad with more depth is needed. I know Pep likes his small squads, but he doesn't like leaving players at home. But what do you do when you're playing every 3 to 4 days and you've got players who are going here, there and everywhere around the globe, playing on the international break, coming back to us, not fresh, not fit, tired, needing a break? You need your depth. That's what the depth is for there. And if we don't have that depth, you've got no choice but to utilise them players who aren't fit to play. And then they pick up injuries, and then they get repeated injuries, and then you're rushing players back. We needed more depth in January. We looked much sharper from January onwards last season because we had that depth, and we've got the depth now, but we're looking to trim that depth down. What we don't want to do is trim it too much that it ends up becoming a depleted squad, and that has been a bit of a concern of mine. So again, squad management, it's key to being a successful team in the Premier League, in my opinion. CC, I've not been keeping an eye on Vita Hayes. I saw in the first game for Girona he didn't start, and I don't think he featured, and I have expressed my concern before about Vita Hayes not being a first choice centre-back for Girona, and he's not going to be a player that's going to get overly utilised, in particular because Girona aren't in a European competition. All they've got to focus on is, the Copa del Rey and La Liga. So I'm not entirely sure how many minutes he's going to get, and I've expressed my concern about the loan before. I have expressed my concern about it. Ian, it is good to see John Stones. He's another player like Ruben Diaz, possesses a lot of quality. Had a good game against Wolves. I don't think he had his best game against Spurs. It's going to take a bit of time. John Stones, it's important that he just focuses on staying fit. And again, squad management. We know he can't play 3 games in a week, so making sure that we don't start him 3 games in a week. So you've got to pick and choose which games you think really suit Manchester City and which players suit them games. Nadir says, feeling positive, I like it. Says, I reckon City's still going to be in the title race, but reckons we will get pipped to it by Liverpool. Titles aren't decided in August. I think there's a bit of a learning curve from that Tottenham Hotspur game. For me, the only thing I really learned from the game against Spurs is how good Spurs are, and I don't think, probably a bit impulsive, but I don't think Spurs should be ruled out of a team that should be mentioned about how good they can be. I know they weren't very good last season under Ange Postecoglou, but Thomas Frank's a fantastic manager, and I think Tottenham Hotspur are going to be a team that challenge in the top 5. And I think if they find a lot of consistency and disguise themselves away from distraction and have a good end to this window, there's no reason why Tottenham can't be a team that are taken seriously. Lots of people are taking Chelsea very seriously, and I think that Tottenham Hotspur are, for me, just as equally as a good team. So we will see. Don't be underappreciating how good Spurs can be based on what you saw from them last season. Different players, different manager. I think Tottenham Hotspur, if they can find that consistency, could be a very good team to keep an eye out for this season, is what I learned. I were more impressed with Spurs on Saturday than I was with City. Ariel, good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated as well. Adrian, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Says he just watched the City Spurs game back. Diaz was equally to blame for the second goal. He took the goal kick and passed it to Trafford. Daft decision. Yeah, under pressure from the Tottenham high press. Sometimes back to basics, as Fabian Delph has famously said. Clear the ball, boot it up, get rid of the danger. When the ball's not there to be played, then you get rid of it. And I think what's happened here is Man City are so used to having Ederson in goal, they're so used to passing it to Ederson, that Ederson would have looked up, seen that there was a dangerous pass on, and probably not played that pass and gone, this needs to go up, and he'll have gone for a long-range pass. Probably Spurs would have got the ball back, but the immediate danger in front of our penalty area would have been avoided. James Trafford thought, I've got to pass it out from the back. I've got to find a pass that's on. I'm under pressure. I see a player that's in a little bit of space. I'm going to pass it to them. And the pass just was misjudged and it was never on. So ultimately, that was the inexperience there. Yeah, but James Trafford, as I said, it's a learning curve for him. Could our senior players like Ruben Diaz show a bit more responsibility? Yeah, they could get rid of the ball, but then it shows a lack of trust in the goalkeeper. And Ruben Diaz has backed the goalkeeper, and then the goalkeeper's made the mistake. There was actually a couple of good long-range passes on for James Trafford, but that's easy for us to say when we pause the screen and have a look at it when we can analyse. James Trafford's in that moment. He's got a split second to make that decision, and that decision-making will improve with time. He's inexperienced. He's a young goalkeeper. He's been playing a lot with Accrington Stanley, with Bolton Wanderers down in League One and League Two. He's played with Burnley in the Championship. He's done 1 season in the Premier League, and that was a big learning curve for him. It's going to be a big learning curve for James Trafford this season with City. So, Jack Grealish doing very well, and I'm happy to see it. Everton are falling in love with a lone player. They're seeing his quality, and he's always had that quality. It's just Man City have had so much quality around them that Jack Grealish never stood out as being the standout player at City. It's always been a case of big fish in a small pond. That's what Jack Grealish was like at Aston Villa. He was by a country mile their best player. That's why they got 100 million for him. And at Everton, Jack Grealish is, for me, their best player. Not even close. He is their best player. He is their outlet. Everything should be running, if I was Everton, through Jack Grealish, because they will score a lot of goals. He will score a lot of goals, and he will assist a lot of goals if he keeps himself injury-free. That's why he's done the loan deal, because he feels like if the Everton can get the very best out of him, you know, he's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet for Thomas Tuchel at the World Cup. It's just Man City have got that many good players around them that Jack Grealish just doesn't stand out, and the quality that he's got around him, he has to up his game. He's even admitted it himself that, you know, his heart wasn't in him challenging to get the regular spot at Manchester City. He just couldn't make it work, unfortunately. And I think the situation is, I think Jack Grealish just suits being the biggest name and the best player. He's one of them players, and that's absolutely fine, because he's a fantastic player. It's just that Man City is not the biggest name or the best player. So he doesn't shine, he doesn't look as good, and things don't run through him. If, you know, he makes one mistake, he's out of the team. You know, he makes a mistake at Everton, and, you know, they'll just say, that's fine, we've got a more defensive formation, his mistakes won't be as exposed as much, and they'll just have the next wave of attack where Jack Grealish can show his quality, and that's okay. So that's perfect. I'm perfectly fine with that. Absolutely fine with that. You know, he's a quality player. I know that he's a quality player. I've seen it in glimpses with him at Man City. I wanted to see more from Jack Grealish. I'd like to have seen him used in more of an advanced position, playing behind the striker. I felt like Man City just looked a bit exposed in one or two games where they had utilised him in that position, that they decided for future reference not to go with that yet. You know, there's a couple of games. I remember that Nottingham Forest game at home and was in a terrible run. Everything ran through Jack Grealish. He was the best player on that pitch. Forest are a very good team, by the way. He completely dictated that pace of the game and dictated everything that happened. Jack Grealish was a fantastic player that day. So, yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Possibly, it might well be a time for Ruben Diaz to maybe sit a game out, and Kadir Husinov gets given his opportunity instead. We lack pace. Kyle Walker's gone. Obviously, he's not had his pace now for over a season. We need pace at the back. We've got a player who's got pace at the back, and we're not utilising him, and I don't really know why, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't hesitate to have... I'd like to see us go back to a back three. Once we get Joško Vardiol back fit, there'd be a bit of rotation going on between John Stones and Kadir Husinov, and he'd be going on the right-hand side. You could have Joško Vardiol go through the middle and Nathan Ake on one side, or Ryan Aït-Nouri if you want to go with him, or you could have Joško Vardiol go on the left-hand side, Kadir Husinov goes on the... right-hand side for Kadir Husinov, left-hand side for Joško Vardiol. You could have someone like Ruben Diaz through the middle, or Manu Akanji if he ends up staying here, or Nathan Ake if he ends up being here. There's lots of good defensive options that City have got. It's just, yeah, Ruben Diaz isn't undroppable. He needs to step it up, he needs to find his form, and he needs to find it quick. I don't want to see him slipping and, you know, making errors and making mistakes, because obviously he's not the quickest of defenders. So, you know, Ruben Diaz, his main attribute is organisation of the defence around him. So if he's got a good centre-back pairing with him, and he has a fantastic pairing, by the way, with Joško Vardiol, maybe we might see Ruben Diaz get back to finding a bit of form. I think we've missed Joško Vardiol, because he's, again, for me, I think he's Man City's best player when it comes to distribution. John Stones, if he can find his feet, also very good with that. And these are players who could be help Man City with their distribution out from the back. But, you know, we've got to get these players fit and ready, and they're not fit and ready right now, which I think is a bit unfortunate. Finn, welcome, tuning in from Wales, much appreciated. And Garfin, thanks for tuning in as well. The transfers are going. Who is entering? Who is going? I'm expecting, I like speculation, I'm expecting Ortega to leave and Calvin Phillips to leave. I'm certain that they will leave. I think you're going to see one of the first team players leave. I think that's going to be Manuel Akanji that will go. I think he will decide to go to Galatasaray. I think Nathan Ake will decide to stay. I'm 50-50 about Ilkay Gundogan. My instinct's telling me I think Ilkay Gundogan is going to leave. I'm not sure if Man City will replace him or not. I don't think that they will. Not in this window anyway. Edison, I think, will leave. I think Savinho will stay. I don't think we'll bring Rodrygo in, and I think you'll see Donnarumma brought in by Man City, is what I think right now will be Man City's business. But things can change very quickly in the transfer market, and we know that. So, yeah, we'll see what does happen. I agree. Sadia, Donnarumma, fantastic goalkeeper. I'd have no hesitation to bring him in. The Citizen, welcome. Thanks for tuning in as well. They trust Trafford to handle that pressure. He's just not quite there yet. That's okay. 2-3 seasons, he will be there. He's just not there right now. And that's cemented for me. That's what we learned from that Spurs game. It's probably what Pep Guardiola wanted to learn. Do we need to sign a first choice goalkeeper or not? I need my answer, because Trafford was so good last week. I need my answer against a good team like Tottenham Hotspur. And we got our answer. So now we need to do what we need to do. I was really happy to hear that less than 24 hours after that result, City agree in personal terms with a brilliant keeper like Donnarumma, because that's going to help Man City in the long run. Distribution for Donnarumma is not fantastic. He's not as good as Ederson, so expect that drop off in distribution. Donnarumma is a big game player, good with his shot stopping, commands his area very well. And I saw a good comment from somebody yesterday. I apologise, I can't remember who put the comment, but when we face Arsenal in September, Arsenal are set-piece kings. Their corner kicks are excellent. They're going to be putting balls in to the area, and James Trafford, inexperienced, I think would get bullied in such an instance. I'm hoping that City's defenders would be strong, but we've been bullied by Arsenal's set play before. We got bullied by it last season, both at the Emirates and at the Etihad. Someone like Gigi Donnarumma, he's not going to get bullied off that ball. If Donnarumma comes to collect that ball, he will go and collect that ball. I don't care if there's a Gabriel or a Timber or whomever underneath the ball. Donnarumma is a huge presence in goal, and it'd be helpful for them set pieces in particular for that game against Arsenal. That's something that Donnarumma I think is better than Trafford at, and something that he's better than Ederson at. Winston, correct, is still very early in the season. Nothing gets decided in August, and I do agree that we do need a goalkeeper. Right now, Stephanie, thank you for tuning in. I reckon Savinho will stay at Man City, because City just don't want to sell. Savinho needs to tell City that he wants to leave. He's not done that yet. Unless he does do that, I don't think he's going anywhere. And I'd be surprised to see Tottenham stump up the cash that we're talking about, 60, 70 million pounds, not the kind of transfer Tottenham normally do. They're normally looking at the 30 to 50 odd million pound mark, and not, it's the next calibre of signing, looking at your 60, 70 million pound players. But I could be wrong. They could do that. We'll see. But I don't think right now Savinho will leave. But things change very quickly in this window. Very quickly. City forever. He's shown glimpses of being quality. Normally it's in the second half of the season. I feel like we get the very best out of Ruben Diaz. But as I said before, he's not undroppable. He is not undroppable. There are quality centre-back options. And if Diaz is struggling and he can't find his form, there's high-quality young players like Kadir Husanov who should be given their opportunity to showcase what he can do. I'm looking towards the Brighton game, and I'm thinking, they've got some quick players, like some Matoma. So someone like Husanov, could be very useful, because someone like Matoma could expose Manchester City and make us look like we're headless chickens running at the back. So asking Kadir Husanov, and this is something I'd like to have seen as trial, but we've not really seen it, is when we're looking at like quick attacking wingers, move Husanov over to the right-hand side, almost like a right winger, and ask him to man-mark players out of games. And, if we're dealing with teams who are capable with a lot of power and pace of exposing Man City on the counter-attack, then you don't go with Rico Lewis, you go with Mateus Nunes, because Nunes is far quicker and stronger than Rico Lewis. And you go with Kadir Husanov, who can help provide that extra cover at the back as well, because he's rapid. And that's something that I'd like to see a little more of. I disagree with that, CC. I think Marmoush is a quality player. I just think Man City at the moment don't know the best way. We're facing what I call a Julian Alvarez problem. Because Julian Alvarez is a quality player. He's just not as good as Erling Haaland to take his position in the squad. Erling Haaland picks up an injury, Omar Marmoush would start, and he'd pick up goals, and he'd be an excellent player. I always feel like Omar Marmoush is better when he's got a bit of creative freedom, when he can dip on the left, right, and through the middle. He didn't have that against Spurs. His job was to be a left winger, and I want to put emphasis that Omar Marmoush is not a winger. He's an attacker. He's a player who plays behind the striker, can play as the second striker, can play as the first striker, can play in the 9, can play in the 10. He can score goals. He can be a poacher. He's that kind of player. He's more than capable of, long-range efforts. We've seen him score a fantastic goal last season as well. Goal of the season as far as I'm concerned. So that's the kind of player you're looking at with Omar Marmoush, and I feel like Man City could do a bit more to get the best out of him. We could have done a lot more to get the best out of Julian Alvarez, but we didn't. We insist on sticking with traditional wingers, stretching the width of the pitch, and having Erling Haaland starting up top. I was hoping when Rayan Aït-Nouri were brought in that he were going to be the player that's going to help Man City to stretch the pitch a little more, and you're going to see our wingers invert more to help support Erling Haaland, so our wingers are scoring and assisting more, which is what Savinho and Jeremy Doku need to work really hard on this season if they remain Man City players. Whereas Omar Marmoush, he's not like Jeremy Doku, he's not like Savinho, he's a completely different kind of attacking player. And what we're doing right now, I don't think gets the very best out of Omar Marmoush. We're just starting Omar Marmoush because Omar Marmoush is a high quality player. He's too good to be sat on Man City's bench, and I don't think we've found a way to make it work for him just yet. And I think Pep Guardiola could really do with just tinkering the squad a bit, and this is why it's good to have options for City. Do you go with a formation change? Do you go with a different kind of philosophy and a different kind of approach to these kind of games? How are you going to stretch the width of the game? For me, I think Man City over-reliant on their wingers providing that width and over-reliant on our fullbacks inverting, Aït-Nouri getting forward and cutting into the centre, Rico Lewis helping to support attacks and going in through the centre. And it looked a bit disjointed at times. It looked disjointed against Wolves. It looked disjointed against Spurs. Ryan Cherky, Rico Lewis, they weren't on the same wavelength. It didn't look right. It didn't match. So that in time is going to come when these players, new players have come in, have managed to embed themselves a bit better. And, Omar Marmoush now coming in into his first full season with Man City, he's going to need time. He's going to need at least a couple more seasons before I hope we see the very best out of him. I've always said, I said this when we had Alvarez, I'd like to have seen Man City find a way for a formation for us to allow us to have two strikers to take some pressure off Erling Haaland, because Haaland's always going to have two players around him. If you can find a way to have a second striker and Jeremy Doku starting, you're talking about the need for 5 or 6 defensive players to stay back at all time to stop the attacking threat of Man City. Erling Haaland needs 2 players around him. Marmoush needs 1, maybe 2 players around him. And the pace of Jeremy Doku needs 1 or 2 players around him at all times. So immediately, with them players starting, if you can find a way to get the ball into the channels and get these players involved, you've automatically put your opposition onto the back foot. That's when you need your creative players, and I think that's where we're going to miss someone like Kevin De Bruyne, because we've not really got that direct creative player. I also didn't think Kevin De Bruyne had his best season last season, so it is what it is. We're transitioning. We're going through a different phase where there has to be a time where we're going to go for a different approach and a different formation to try and make work what players we have got, because at the minute it might work against the teams that we can bully, but if we can't bully the good teams, it's not going to work against them. And what you're going to see is a repeat of last season. You go up against Arsenal, we'll struggle. Go up against Liverpool, we'll struggle. Played Spurs, we'll struggle. Big Champions League games against good teams, will struggle. So lessons have got to be learned very quickly, and it's up to Pep Guardiola. He's fairly sure he's the best paid manager in the world. It's his job to find them solutions. So we will see. No talk of a right back. I don't think a right back's going to be signed in this window. I'd like a right back, but I don't think that's going to happen. Victor, welcome. Thank you for tuning in as well. Am I the only one that thinks Marmoush is going to come good? I've seen a lot of quality from Omar Marmoush. I just don't think we've got him playing in the right position. So, yeah. There we are. The Citizen, thank you for tuning in. Didn't look fluent enough to score enough goals. Definitely need better wingers. Time for new player to adjust with the Prem. I agree. There needs to be more quality competitions for players' places. I think there's a couple of players that start who are looking a bit too comfortable to start and just need an awakening to say, actually, it's not a guarantee that you're going to start, because at the moment, one of the hardest working players that we've got is Oscar Bob, and at the moment, Oscar Bob's not going to get displaced by Savinho, because I think Oscar Bob's doing what Savinho does, and he's doing it better than what Savinho is doing. Takes his man on more successful in his dribbles, does try and track back. All Oscar Bob needs to do is what Savinho needs to work on now, is helping to provide quality balls into the box, getting them assists and getting them goals. And I think Oscar Bob, give him, another 10 games or so of, playing on a regular basis, and I think Oscar Bob would start to provide that. So, yeah. Christopher expressing some concern about the strength. I mean, Oscar Bob, I agree and I don't agree. I agree in terms of the physicality. Rico Lewis and Oscar Bob, they do need to bulk up a little bit more. David Silva, Sergio Aguero, they were never hench, but they weren't getting bullied off the ball. In fact, teams struggled to get the ball off them because of their low sense of gravity and how good they were with the ball at their feet. They were so difficult to dispossess. Oscar Bobbs keeps willing to take his man on, so he can get brushed aside by strong defenders. And I think that is something that he could improve upon. Needs to be more technically gifted to ensure that he's giving himself always an extra half a yard of space on the defenders. Again, it's, I think, something Rico Lewis could improve upon. And, likes of Rico Lewis and Oscar Bobb, I think they'd really shine in certain games. Games against Wolves, they'd do really well. And I think when we've got Burnley coming up at the end of September, these are games that I think they'd really shine. And I just don't think these players are quite there just yet. They need more experience. They need more learning before they're going to be good enough to be a regular starter for the biggest and best games that City have got still to come in this season. So, thank you very much, Cayman. Much appreciated. Yeah, I agree. If Wolves score, that goal gets allowed, it becomes a different game. I think City drop points. So, yeah, I think them things that we saw exposed against Spurs this weekend would have been exposed last weekend. There's the difference, though, between being clinical and not. Man City have a couple of good chances. Omar Marmoush's one-on-one, Erling Haaland's header. Them 2 goals go in, and Man City are 2-0 up, and Man City probably go on to beat Tottenham Hotspur. The heads would drop, would expose the space, probably go on and score 3 or 4. But it just... We didn't have our shooting boots on. We did not have our shooting boots on. Connor, I have no idea. It's unpredictable these days, isn't it? It used to be far more predictable when we were in the old Champions League group stage. Now it's in the league format stage. We could play just about anybody. So I've no idea. It makes it very difficult to predict. I mean, we even have the excitement taken away from balls being drawn. It's literally just an automated thing that's put on the screen and said, there's your teams you're facing and there's your fixtures. On you go. Which is odd. Anyway, much appreciated. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate that it's only 10:30 in the morning here in the UK, but I've got a bit of free time this morning, so I thought we'll go live. We'll try something a bit new. I always seem to ever go live in the afternoon. I've got a free morning, so I thought trial it in the morning. I do tend to, unless it's game day, I don't tend to be that available in the evenings. I try and keep evenings to myself, just for my own sanity, really. So I can relax and just do whatever I want to do, because it's hard work balancing full-time work and doing YouTube on the side, and doing a heck of a lot of content as well. It is hard work, so I agree, English Dawn. Thanks for tuning in. It says what gives the Premier League the extra excitement is the politics of it. So, there's La Liga equally can be quite exciting. There's a lot of politics that go on there, and I think you're looking there at, for me anyway, the 2 best leagues in the world, in Spain and in England, and you got lots of high quality teams. I think the only thing that the Premier League's got on La Liga, it's got more money, so therefore more money exposed to other teams, and these other teams offer a little more than maybe some of the other teams sitting, like the teams in the bottom half. I reckon if you had the bottom 10 of the Premier League take on the bottom 10 of La Liga, and I'd expect the bottom 10 of the Premier League to showcase their quality, because they've got a heck of a lot more money than those teams in the bottom half of La Liga. But the bottom teams in La Liga do play a tremendous style of football. Their style of football, they very much the tiki-taka kind of football, implemented across most teams in Spain. So it's not uncommon to watch teams in the second division of Spain be able to dictate the pace of a game and distribute the ball out from the back and stuff, and they do it far better than what's done in England. And I think that's maybe just a philosophy thing. It's why you see so many teams trying to copy the philosophy of Pep Guardiola. They know that it works really well in Spain. They've seen that it works in England from Pep Guardiola. So other teams are trying to implement their style of play as well, and you're seeing it now drifting more throughout not just the English Football League, but even down into non-league. I've recently been down and watched games in Tier 9, Tier 8, Tier 10 and stuff, and they're playing that kind of style of football. So you're seeing a little bit of a philosophy change in the teams building up from the back down at the bottom, and that's going to, I think, become over the next 15 or 20 years something you're going to see on a more regular basis. And then that's where then I'd expect the money that England have got ahead of Spain, in particular the money going into the Premier League, I'd expect it to be all about the quality that these young players have got, that have got the infrastructure that's maybe a bit better than those who are sitting in the bottom half of La Liga. So yeah, interesting times. It'll take a bit of time for that all to be implemented, but I reckon the style of football and what we're looking like in terms of football in the next 15 years is going to look very different to now. And I think your traditional, your 4-4-2s, your rough and tough, your crosses, your traditional wingers, your long ball implements in games and stuff, I think that's maybe going to become a bit of a thing of the past, but we'll see. I'm not too sure it's an ego thing that's going on here. I think it's more a Man City think they know what's best for the City. I mean, you could accuse that of being ego, really, if you wanted to, but I don't think City are doing it from that egotistical point of view. I think City are just doing it from a high-quality young player point of view. You know, we've invested a lot of time and money into Savinho, so they want to see Savinho giving something back to Man City, and, you know, they've not had their money's worth. They're capable here of getting a lot more money than what we paid for him, but we're not really seeing the very best out of Savinho, and there'd be nothing more bitter of a pill for us to swallow than watch Savinho go to Spurs, and in 2 seasons' time he ends up being their best player, which Man City clearly think he's going to be. Seen it with Cole Palmer. You know, he wanted to leave, so we had to make that sale happen. Savinho's not expressed an interest to leave yet, but if he does express that interest, then he will leave, and that's just maybe something we have to deal with. No Donnarumma update since I've done my transfer update from yesterday, so any more developments on that, of course, we'll keep you up to date in my daily Man City transfer updates. Where's this news come from, Adrian? Can you just point me in the right direction, please? I've heard some murmurs, but they're not official, and I like official, so I may have missed something here, so can you please let me know? Tally, welcome. Thanks for tuning in as well. He says he's a moment's player, Rodrygo. He's not who you think he is. He's a good player. You know, at the end of the day, I look towards the most important statistics, scoring goals and grabbing assists, and Rodrygo, for me, does it better than what Savinho does or has done. He's got better numbers than any of the wingers that City have currently offered to us. And yeah, someone like Rodrygo would be, I think, a good step up in quality for what we'd be looking for. He may blow a bit hot and cold, but you know, he's got a proven track record. He knows where the back of the net is, in particular in the biggest moments in the big games against the big teams. And that's, you know, Savinho's done it in La Liga. He's just never done it on the big stage in like the Champions League. Rodrygo has done it in the Champions League. In fact, we've been knocked out of the Champions League by Real Madrid because of Rodrygo before. So there's clearly something about him that I think lots of teams rate. It's just very expensive, and it becomes a very difficult transfer to get done. This is a good question. I like this from Normski. He says, who are we blaming for such an unbalanced squad? The players we have are decent when they're used in their correct positions. Now, this is question of the day. I think there's many different answers about the unbalancing of the squad. At the end of the day, and you know, when it comes to who faces blame if Man City have a bad season, it always comes back down to who always gets the blame. It's always going to fall on the manager. The manager's in charge of the squad. The manager picks the formation. The manager picks what the team are working on in training. The manager selects which players are going to be playing and what jobs they're going to be doing in the team. It all falls down to the manager. So if the team's looking a bit unbalanced, then the team's not been doing something that the manager's asked them to do, or what the manager's asked them to do hasn't been working, is what it falls down to. I think at the moment it's looking a bit unbalanced because we've shifted a few players on. We're going to shift more players on between now and transfer deadline day, and we've got quite a few new players doing some new things in a new country, in a new league, around new teammates with new opposition. So it is going to take, naturally, a bit of time. I've said it whilst we've had Pep as our manager, and I'm going to continue to say it whilst we've got Pep as our manager. If you are going to implement a certain style of play and be a certain calibre of player, to work under Pep Guardiola, you've got to be willing, you've got to be versatile, and you've got to be patient and give yourself a bit of time. Give yourself a couple of seasons to excel, and then decide about, do you think you're right for Man City? Do you think you're excelling under Pep Guardiola? And make them decisions. You know, Jack Grealish is a good example of this. He's had enough time at Man City to decide he doesn't think Man City is now the right club for him, and that's okay. You know, someone like Ryan Cherky is going to give himself a couple of seasons. It might not work for him. Or Equally, it might be a tremendous success and it might just hit it off and it might just be a tremendous signing because, equally, whilst we've had Pep Guardiola here, there have been players that have really come on tenfold, likes of Rodri winning a Ballon d'Or under Pep Guardiola. I think Phil Foden's come on leaps and bounds. I think his form's dipped a little bit over the last, 12 months or so. But look, 12 months before that, and Phil Foden really has come on leaps and bounds under Pep Guardiola. He's found a way of getting the very best out of other high-quality players, albeit they've been a bit injury-prone, but I felt like he found a way of getting the best out of Ake, getting the best out of John Stones when he were playing in that little pivoted role, helping to support Rodri and helping to support the defence during our treble-winning season. So if you give yourself enough time and you listen to Pep Guardiola and the coaches, you will end up becoming a high-quality player who could go on to do tremendous things and win tremendous amounts of trophies. And, Kevin De Bruyne is another example of that. I actually think Raheem Sterling used to get unnecessary flack from Man City fans because I actually think that how Raheem Sterling played suited Man City down to the ground. He was incredibly frustrating. He used to miss some absolute sitters. It was very frustrating to watch. But what I would give to have a player who was so capable of taking his man on, going to the byline, getting assists and scoring goals. Raheem Sterling always scored goals and grabbed assists, and yet everyone used to get on his back. Jeremy Doku and Savinho currently can't produce numbers anywhere near what Raheem Sterling could do. That's because Raheem Sterling, suited Man City under Pep Guardiola better than what Jeremy Doku or Savinho have right now. But Savinho and Jeremy Doku have got to give themselves a bit more time, in particular Savinho, because he's only been here a season. Doku now has been here for 2 seasons, and this, for me, is Jeremy Doku's biggest season for Man City. If we don't see them assists and goals coming in for Jeremy Doku, if I were Man City next summer, I'd have serious conversations about him. Man City, Pep Guardiola and Hugo Viana, they get paid the big money to make them big, difficult decisions. They've got to look at it and say, who's right, who's wrong. And to find that right balance, you've got to make them difficult decisions. And, there's certain players who I think haven't come on enough. That Man City, it's either not through their fault, it's through age. We're seeing that slowly a decline for the likes of Bernardo Silva and Ilkay Gundogan, which I think is a tremendous shame because these are legends of Manchester City. These are high quality players who, unfortunately for them, age is catching up to them. So they drop a yard of pace and they drop a little bit of physicality, and all of a sudden it becomes very difficult to compete at the top end. And it's up to the manager to find the right balance. We've got to select the team and stuff, so and it's up to Hugo Viana to make sure the correct players are brought in. So and there was some business done in the January window that maybe weren't right for Man City. They didn't panic, but they focused on bringing in high-quality young players who aren't ready yet. Vita Hayes and Claudio Echeverri, brought in January to help with the numbers. Both possess a lot of quality, didn't really get given the chance, and are now out on loan for the season because we can't find a way to register them and get them involved. And some could describe it as a bit of a mess. And, I don't disagree with that statement. I don't agree with it either, but I don't disagree with it as well. So, yeah. How did Vita Hayes do for Girona then? I presume from the comments that I've seen that maybe he's not done as well as what he's done, but there we go. You're looking at here at 3 wingers. I know it splits the fan base, their opinions on Savinho, on Jeremy Doku and Rodrygo, so I may as well input my opinion. I've not seen enough of Savinho. I'd like for him to do another season so I can see more, so I can make a better judgment, so he can have them 2 seasons under Pep, so I can give a better answer. As Doku's now done 2 seasons, I can give a better answer about him. His ability to take his man on, to dribble, has been fantastic. I feel like I'd like to see him alternated. I'd like to see him go on the right wing and see how he does on there, because on the left wing, he's blowing a little bit hot and cold. He's going to the byline. He's managing to, beat the man. He's managing to get balls across. Sometimes he finds the player, sometimes he doesn't. I mean, the problem is Jeremy Doku's that quick. He doesn't really have much time to get his head up and play the ball. So Erling Haaland and Jeremy Doku often aren't on the same wavelength. Haaland likes to hold his position because he's just as big as the defenders. He's capable of competing with them in the air. And if Jeremy Doku can put a ball that's perfect to either Erling Haaland's left foot or onto Erling Haaland's head, Haaland could well score them goals, but I've not really seen that link-up play. Saw a great example where he found that acute little pass into Phil Foden, but Phil Foden had Mickey van der Ven on his toes that he couldn't find a way to get a clean shot away and score the goal, and Van der Ven celebrated it like he'd scored a goal for his team. That's how important it was, and that could easily have been a goal, and that would have been an assist for Doku, and we'd have been saying that was a good assist for Doku, and he's got a bit of end product. I mean, he does have it in his locker. He just needs to be more consistent. That's what I'm looking for Doku, that consistency to get them goals and get the assists. If he can get that about him, he will be a world-class winger. He's got all the potential. At the moment, though, I'm not seeing it enough. And that's why Omar Marmoush, I think, started against Tottenham Hotspur and not Jeremy Doku. He had two men around him. He couldn't find a way for him to work against Tottenham Hotspur. So Man City have decided against Wolves. So they decided, we'll give Marmoush to go on the left-hand side instead to see how that works. I imagine we'll probably go back to Jeremy Doku starts on Sunday against Brighton. So he gets given an opportunity there where, if Doku's starting, I'm looking at City's attacking line and I'm thinking I want to see goals. So I look towards if Savinho started that game, I want to see a goal or an assist. If Oscar Bob started, I want to see a goal or assist. If Haaland started, I want to see a goal or assist. Marmoush started, I want to see a goal or assist. And same with Doku as well, because it's the most important stat. It's the stat that you get judged upon. Dribbles, Oscar Bob does it very well. Dribbles, take-ons, quality, getting in the positions, finding the accurate passes, all fantastically well. But Pep Guardiola said it himself. He worked on build-up play, so he will improve James Trafford. He'll improve the defence. He'll find a way to get that ball into the final third. Once a player gets into the final third, that's not Pep Guardiola's area of expertise. He lets the attacking players who are high quality do their thing, and it's up to them to get that link-up play. Haaland needs to get on the same wavelength as Jeremy Doku. If Jeremy Doku likes playing the balls to the near post, then Haaland needs to make them runs into the near post. If Haaland's not going to make them runs into the near post, then Doku's got to find a way to look up and have a look and see where is Man City striker. Erling Haaland is there. Great, I'll put a ball in, because I'll say it on my live streams. If Doku does something and he puts a ball in a good area, I'm not going to challenge Jeremy Doku on a bad ball because I think it's a good ball. I'd be challenging and saying, why is there not a Man City player on the end of that's red and been on the same wavelength as Jeremy Doku? Same can be said for Savinho, same can be said for Rodrygo as well. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Rodrygo brought in and we continue to persist with our problems that we have with our wide players, because we've just not found that many ways to get them involved and find the ways for these players to grab goals and assists. And I could sit here and argue all day and say sometimes we could start a Bernardo Silva or a Phil Foden out wide, and sometimes it interlinks and works better for City than it does going with your traditional wingers, because again, situational stuff against football teams, some things work better than others. I think Man City have really struggled with replacing Riyad Mahrez. I think to myself about prime peak Riyad Mahrez for Man City. He gets assists, he scores goals, and that's something I think City need to improve on this season. It's something we weren't very good at last season. There wasn't a lot of support for Erling Haaland. If Erling Haaland wasn't scoring goals, who was scoring them goals? And people have been sitting here and saying Omar Marmoush is a bit of a flop, but Omar Marmoush is the first name that comes to mind when I'm thinking about what did he get? Was it 6, 7 Premier League goals he scored for Man City? That was half a season. So if he comes in and he scores, let's say, 14, 15 Premier League goals, I'd say that's a good success for Omar Marmoush. I'd be expecting Erling Haaland to be scoring 20 or more Premier League goals. Marmoush scoring 14 or 15 Premier League goals. So if you're a starting winger, if you're Oscar Bob or Savinho or Doku or Rodrygo, I would be expecting you to be scoring bare minimum. I'd expect 15 goal contributions. I'd be expecting 8 to 10 goals from each winger. Man City play a very attacking style of play, so these wingers have got to step it up. They've got to take it to the next level. They're not taking it to the next level, and if Man City choose not to address this in this window, it will get addressed next summer. And City, if they do choose to address it next summer, are going to have to take things very seriously about Savinho, about Doku, about X, Y, and Z. Do you go for Rodrygo? If it's not going to be Rodrygo this summer, who's it going to be? Because one player I really rate, and is a player who I'm so frustrated to see him go to another Premier League team, is Enquiries, of how good he's been for Crystal Palace. Can play on the left, can play on the right. That is, for me, one of the best signings of the summer. And he's gone to Arsenal. How frustrating is that? I've got a feeling that when we play Arsenal in a few weeks' time at the Emirates Stadium, one of the best players you're going to see on that pitch is Eze. And I'm going to be saying to myself when I'm watching that game, good grief, I wish we'd been in for Eze, because he's a complete step up on anything that we have got. And I think we've missed out on a tremendous player who's also homegrown as well. And he's going to do mad bits of business for Arsenal, in my opinion, because he is a high quality player. He ripped City to shreds at times in that FA Cup final. He were by a country mile Crystal Palace's best player on that pitch, and he consistently has been Crystal Palace's best player. I actually think Crystal Palace could have asked for a lot more money than they got for him, just over £50 million. I think Eze's a £60-70 million. There's talk that Savinho's going for £60-70 million. I think Eze's a better player than what Savinho is right now. So we might struggle to get a good amount from Spurs, because Spurs were willing to pay that £55 million, I think it was, for Eze. They might say Savinho's not as good as Eze, so we're not going to pay close to £55 million. So yeah. I'm not worried either, Hugh. Thanks for tuning in. Nearly caught me out with the name, but not quite. Rodney, thanks for tuning in as well. Fullbacks, right backs, the problems. Wingers, I think, are problems. Aging players coming into central midfield's not been an issue yet, but I imagine when we start to rotate, it's going to become an issue as well. The teething issues are all here, so yeah. Oh, so that nice little reference in the NFL from Bella there, saying reckons it's Hail Mary time for Pep Guardiola. We don't really have much to lose, do we? Take the risks. Cody Husinov, you're thinking, is that a risk? I don't think it's a risk. Starts for me. I'd play him. Rico Lewis comes out. Mateus Nunes would go in. First choice new goalkeeper comes in. Would replace James Trafford for me. I'd bring in a new winger. I'd target a new right back. They're the bits of business that I would be doing. But obviously City don't feel like they need to do that in this window. So, yeah. I agree, Rob. Yeah, he's not been as good as he's been. I look at Ederson. I think Ederson was probably at his best during the treble season for Man City. He made mistakes. Ederson made mistakes. He made a huge distribution error at the Club World Cup, did he not? He was at fault for one of the goals. Only difference is Club World Cups, we can forgive mistakes at the Club World Cup because it's a Club World Cup. Might be classed as a competitive game, and Man City would have been taking it serious, but it's not a Premier League game. Premier League's what you're going to get decided on. Pep Guardiola won't lose his job because we didn't win the Club World Cup, but if Man City have a poor season in the Premier League, Pep Guardiola could lose his job, and they're the things that you do get judged on. So there we go. Adrian says Nepan got some minutes for Borough. Echeverry got a few minutes for Leverkusen as they lost 2-1. Mabama did get sent off. He's not done too bad for Stoke, though, Mabama. I know he's already scored for them. I'm not sure how Nepan did for Borough, but good to see him get some minutes, and Echeverry getting some minutes as well. I'll be covering my loan reports in March. I'll have a good look at how players are performing on loan, and if they've been flops or not, or, has City done the right bits of business that they should have been doing or not. We'll see. Beam Tech, thanks for tuning in, says I do not see why the transfer for Savinho is really difficult. Rodrygo's a better player in my opinion. We should let teams like Liverpool. We shouldn't be letting teams like Arsenal or Liverpool get him, as we will regret it. It's difficult because obviously it's a lot of money for Savinho. Tottenham Hotspur, it's great saying we're willing to pay that money. I'm yet to see them actually make that offer to Man City to put City under pressure. I don't think City want to sell a high-quality young player like Savinho, who's got 3, maybe 4 years left on his contract. It's not an ideal situation to be in. I think it's 4 years he's got left on his contract. But if he wants to leave, then he's got to go. And it becomes more simple to sell him if he tells City that he wants to leave, which, again, hasn't happened yet. Rodrygo, a high-quality player. I think due to his price and due to his wage is a reason why Arsenal didn't sign him earlier this summer. I don't think Arsenal will sign Rodrygo. Liverpool might. Depends what happens with Alexander Isak. I think Newcastle will buckle towards transfer deadline day, maybe even on transfer deadline day, because they can't keep an unhappy player who's protesting and doesn't want to be at the club. So something's got to give eventually. I think there'll be an agreement found for a whopping fee. So I reckon it'll be Isak that ends up at Liverpool, and I don't think Rodrygo will go there. So the question is, will City stump up the cash to pay him? And I have my doubts about whether City will or not. So yeah, we'll see. Connor, I've done live watch-alongs before. I've watched the opposition score, and I've sat there and just laughed about how shambolic it was, or just my own thoughts and stuff. A whole host of reasons. You got to remember, at the end of the day, I know it's competitive sport, but it is just a job for the players. So if something's going wrong, sometimes people's reactions are they want to have a laugh about it because they don't want to think about the severity of the situation. Do I want to see Phil Foden sat on the bench laughing when we've just gone 2-0 down? Absolutely not. It rubs me up the wrong way. It rubs a lot of people up the wrong way. If I were Pep, I don't think it's too much of an issue, but if you did find it a bit of an issue, I'm sure Pep wouldn't have a problem in saying, to Phil, that I want to see game day face on. I want to see passion and aggression shown on the touchline. If we've gone 2-0 behind, I want Phil Foden to be, doing all of his warm-ups on the touchline, going to Pep Guardiola and saying, I can make the difference. Get me on that pitch right now. Not laughing. I want to see him saying, I can make the difference. I mean, I saw James Trafford make the distribution error. Ederson wasn't sat on the bench laughing about it. He was rubbing his chin thinking, like, well, what's happened here? Something really to think about. So, yeah. Don't want to see players laughing, but I also don't think there's too much in it. I can see it's very easy just to see it up, taking it the wrong way, when I don't think there's too much to look into, if I'm being honest. Thank you very much to Akandip for your kind comment there, much appreciated. I'll just quickly say hello to everyone, because I think I'm going to end the live stream there. I've been live for an hour. That's been a quick hour. So yeah. Welcome, Lion. Thank you for tuning in as well. Much appreciated. Gaman, thanks for tuning in. Meetelman, thanks for tuning in as well. Tony, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I agree. 2 up top, got to be a necessity. I want to see it at some point. I think it'll cook. I think serious things will happen with 2 up top. We might concede. We conceded 2 against Spurs, so we're conceding anyway. But 2 up top, all out attack, score the goals. You might just go out and score, 3 or 4 goals and win games. Can't play every game like it, but for the difficult games, your Spurs, your Liverpools, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, your Champions League games and stuff, I'd strongly suggest going all out attack. Take the game to these teams and just put them under pressure and see what happens. If we run out of steam, we run out of steam. We lose. Is what it is. I reckon he's going to stay. Pejki, thanks for tuning in. Dopper, thank you for tuning in as well. Not done just yet with the sagas and stuff. Still got 1 more week to go, and I'm looking forward to covering it. The Citizen, thanks for tuning in. And Garthan, thanks for tuning in as well. Welcome to Anthony, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. I reckon the movement you're going to see this week, I reckon Ortega, Calvin Phillips, maybe Manu Akanji, and I think you'll hear some word about Ederson. I don't think we'll get too many movements on Savinho. If that does come, I reckon that might come towards the end of the week. I might be wrong, but just going off, I reckon City's focus right now is to sort the goalkeeping situation and the rest of the squad out before working on what might happen with Savinho or not. Albeit they're going to have to rush through Tottenham Hotspur, because Man City will not sell unless they, even if Savinho comes out and says he wants to leave, I don't think City will sell until they have some kind of replacement put in order, and that again is going to take a bit of time. As Fabrizio Romano said, it's a difficult thing to get sorted. Indranil, I'd love to give some bombers, I'd love to give some exclusives, but I've got my phone on me checking and what's happening, and at the moment, there's not a lot happening. There is not a lot happening. It's Bank Holiday Monday. It might be a bit of a slow day. Who knows? Chris, welcome. Thanks for tuning in as well. Welcome, Lawrence. Thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. Welcome to Chick as well. Thanks for tuning in. Deepak as well. Thank you for tuning in. Justin, welcome. Thank you for tuning in as well. Reincarnation, thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated. Sorry, I can't address everything that everyone's put. I'm going to end the stream very soon as I want to crack on with today's transfer update. I reckon Manvajit, we're probably looking at... what do we reckon? I reckon probably going off Rodrygo starting yesterday. I'd probably say yesterday it was at 20-80 in favour of Rodrygo staying at Real Madrid, 80% and 20% joined City. I'd probably say it's probably 10% at the moment joining City and 90% staying at Real Madrid, but things can change very quickly. I've seen things go from 1% and 99% through to swing right the opposite way in an 80-20 before in the space of 24 hours. So things do happen. You're more than welcome, Normski. Thank you for tuning in. As I said, Bailey, I hope I answered your question. I reckon 10% yes and 90% no at the moment. Philip, you are more than welcome. Thank you for tuning in as well. 100% was a foul. Should have been a penalty. I do actually think, I've watched it several times on replay, I do actually think Spurs had a case on James Trafford. He went in with the knee. I don't think it was a foul from James Trafford in terms of his knee. I thought he won the ball first. Cleanly, he's allowed to challenge for the ball. I do also think the ball struck his arm and helped obstruct the ball and send it away. And I do think Spurs could have had a case of handball. And I think if it was at the other end, I'd have been pretty upset about it. I don't think it was anywhere near as conclusive as the penalty. It was 100% a penalty for City. But Spurs scored, we didn't. We weren't very good, and Spurs were better than us, I thought, in terms of the finishing. And ultimately, football, it's a game of scoring goals. If you're not going to score goals, you're not going to win games, and that's as far as this goes. Task, thank you for tuning in. Bishesh, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. I've not heard anything about Mark Gahey to Man City done. I've heard that Man City are interested. I will speak about that in my transfer update today. Lucas, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. We've got Kulu's happy with come on, you Spurs could be beating us and bringing in Savinho as well. Miran, welcome. Thank you for tuning in as well. Welcome, Dom. Thank you for tuning in as well. I have no idea why it's taking so long and things are going this late in the window. This is what happens with the Club World Cup, and there's been a bit lackadaisical between June 10th and the end of July. There's a huge 6-week gap where we just didn't do anything. Anissa, welcome. Thank you for tuning in as well. I don't think it was Ake to blame. I think that's more a showcasing the quality of Ryan Aït-Nouri and how important he is to Man City right now that we saw things dip. Rodrygo, he's versatile. Marmoush is versatile as well. I'd clash. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. They can both play as the striker, can both play on the left, can both play on the right. I mean, what do we do if Omar Marmoush picks up an injury, and you let Savinho go? Your options are Bob and Doku. Good players, but, we've got 60 games in the season to play. Anyone picks up a serious injury and we'll look... I've expressed before, I think we look a bit depleted. William, thank you for tuning in. Cyper, thanks for tuning in as well. Nomad, thanks for tuning in. William, thank you for tuning in. Stella, thanks for tuning in. I reckon Donnarumma will happen. I would say I'm 80-20. 80 Donnarumma comes in, 20% he doesn't. The same with Edison, 80% sure he'll leave and 20% that he doesn't. Welcome. Mimesh, thank you for tuning in. Sean, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. I'd like to see Husinov given some opportunities and starting as well. Thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated as well. Ankit, thanks for tuning in. Summit, thanks for tuning in. David, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I'm hoping we'll wake up and get some signings done as well. It'd be good to have some new energy. How much better would everyone feel with Donnarumma and Rodrygo here? I think we'd all feel much better. Stephen's hoping that Savinho does go and we bring in Rodrygo, but he reckons Rodrygo a better player. And I think I echo them thoughts for me, in my opinion. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Moses, thanks for tuning in as well. Much appreciated. Thank you for tuning in there. And Garthen. And remember, I am going to be doing my transfer update up probably in the next hour or so for you guys to enjoy, hopefully up around midday here, British summertime. So I will see you guys again for my last episode of the transfer show next Monday. That's going to be transfer deadline day, a special transfer deadline day special, which going off how much business City have got to get done, I presume that Man City is still going to have to do some business right up to transfer deadline day. So it should be a real interesting one. So I will see you guys for that. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in today. Don't forget, leave a thumbs up. Connor, thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated for your kind comment. Please do leave a thumbs up. We're aiming for 200 likes. Do get your thoughts in at the comments below. Subscribe as well if you're new around here. I'm going to keep you guys up to date every single day with all the latest City transfer news here on YouTube. It is free to subscribe. Remember, we're aiming for 47,000 subscribers. I want to try and hit that by the time this transfer window closes next Monday, transfer deadline day. Less than 500 subs away, so any help towards that would be much appreciated. Social media links are in the description as well if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. My X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too. If you want to hit me up for any sponsorships or any videos or any general business inquiries. We enjoy being live because I can't snip and edit and cut mistakes out and stuff. The mistakes have just got to happen. It is what it is. And thank you very much, Dwayne, for your kind comment. So have a fantastic rest of your Monday with whatever you guys are doing. If anyone's tuning in from the UK, then do enjoy your bank holiday Monday with whatever you might be doing, whether you're enjoying the sunshine and the warm weather, or if you're in work or doing X, Y, and Z. Have a cracking day, guys. And yeah, I'll see you for my transfer update out in the next hour or so. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching, guys. Take it easy. Peace. Ciao for now.